So we're going to start by solving by factoring. That's one of three algebraic methods to solve a quadratic equation. You've got the factoring, the square root method, and quadratic formula, which those we'll get to. So the first is factoring. This is the easiest method and should be used anytime the equation is factorable. So we're going to do an example and we're going to do step by steps. So the example is x squared plus 2x minus 24. This is not the easiest thing to graph. So we'll use factoring in this case. Notice that we're adding this equals 0 part that's right here. This is when you know to solve it versus just to graph it or change it to vertex form or all the other different things we've done with these. When it has equals 0, that means it wants a solution. So the very first step is just factor it. So I've got x squared plus 2x minus 24. That factors into x plus 6 and x minus 4 because the two numbers that would multiply to give me negative 24 are positive 6 and negative 4, and they would add together to equal positive 2. I'm just going to bring this equals 0 along for the ride. The next thing we're going to use, step 2, is called the zero product property. Now it sounds all complicated, but all this means is that when two things are multiplied together and it equals 0, like right here, these two things are multiplied together and it equals 0, that means that one of them has to be 0, because anything times 0 equals 0. So that just looks like taking my x plus 6 times x minus 4 equals 0 into x plus 6 equals 0, or x minus 4 equals 0, because one of these two things has to be true in order for this to be true. Alright, so next I'm just going to solve both of the smaller equations. So x plus 6 equals 0. To get x by itself, I subtract 6 from both sides, so x equals negative 6. Or x minus 4 equals 0, so I add 4 to both sides, so x equals 4. So your solution, or your answer, is x equals negative 6 or 4. That's it. So another example, when I've got that number out in front, to factor it I have to borrow that 5. So I end up with x squared plus 7x minus 30 equals 0. Notice I've just kept that equals 0 along for the ride. When I factor this, I get x plus 10 and x minus 3, and then I've got to give back that 5 that I borrowed. Now the difference is where before we would have taken this 5 and put it out front, I'm just going to leave it as a fraction. So I get x plus 2, because 10 divided by 5 is 2, and I get x minus 3/5, because I just brought that fraction right down here. So this is just that note. You do not need to put that 5 in front of the x and rewrite it, because when you solve it, I'm just going to set each one equal to 0. It's easier just to move that 3/5 over by adding 3/5 to both sides and leaving it alone. If you would have rewritten it as 5x minus 3, you would have added the 3 and then divided by 5, which would still leave me with that x divided by, or excuse me, x equals 3 divided by 5. So my answer is just negative 2 and 3/5. That's it.